Kunja Bihari Gopi Janalava Giridhari Jaya Gopi Janalava Giridhari Jaya Gopi Janalava Giridhari Jaya Gopi Janalava Morning, everybody. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, the second canto, chapter 7, text 53, the last text in chapter 7. Please repeat. Please repeat. Mayam Varnayato Musha Mayam Varnayato Musha Ishvara Shanu Modataha Ishvara Shanu Modataha Shrinvataha Shradhaya Nityam Shrinvataha Shradhaya Nityam Shrinvataha Shradhaya Nityam Maya Atma Na Muyati Maya Atma Na Muyati Maya Yatma Na Muyati Mayam Varnayato Musha Ishvara Shanu Modataha Shrinvataha Shradhaya Nityam Maya Yatma Namuyati. Anybody want to start it out? The book, not the book, Prabhu.
No. Maya Vamayato Musha Swarasya Namutu Tata Vishvata Shradaya Nityam Maya Yatmana Muyati
Mayam Varnayato Mushya Ishvarasya Numodita Shrindata Shradhaya Nityam Maya Yatma Namuyati
Mayam Varnayato Mushya
Ishvarasayam Namodataha
Ishvarasaya Numodataha
Sarvatya
Shrivata
Shrindatta Nityam
Shrinvatara Saraya Nityam
Maya Yatama Muyati
Mayatmana Muyate Mayam Varmanato Mushya Ishvarashaya Nudamudata Dravata Shadaya Uttyam
Srimad Nityam
Mayayatmanamuyati
Mayapur
Please repeat. Mayam. Affairs of the external energy. Varnayataha. While describing. Amusha. Of the Lord. Ishvarasha. Of the personality of Godhead. Anumodataha. Thus appreciating. Shrinvataha. Thus hearing. Shadaya. With devotion. Nityam. Regularly. Mayaya. By the illusory energy. Atma. The living entity. Na. Never. Muyati. Becomes illusion. Please repeat. Translation. The Lord's activities in association with his different energies should be described, appreciated, and heard in accordance with the teachings of the Supreme Lord. If this is done regularly, with devotion and respect, one is sure to get out of the illusory energy of the Lord. I'm going to read that again. Translation. The Lord's activities in association with his different energies should be described, appreciated, and heard in accordance with the teachings of the Supreme Lord. If this is done regularly with devotion and respect, one is sure to get out of the illusory energy of the Lord. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The science of learning a subject matter seriously is different from the sentiments of fanatics. Fanatics are fools. Fanatics or fools may consider the Lord's activities in relation with the external energy to be useless for them, and they may falsely claim to be higher participants in the internal energy of the Lord. But factually, the Lord's activities in relation with the external energy and the internal energy are equally good. On the other hand, those who are not completely free from the clutches of the Lord's external energy should devoutly hear regularly about the activities of the Lord in relation with the external energy. They should not foolishly jump up to the activities of the internal energy, falsely attracted by the Lord's internal potential activities like his Rasa Leela. The chief reciters of the Bhagavatam are very much enthusiastic about the Lord's internal potential activities, and the pseudo-devotees, absorbed in material sense enjoyment, falsely jump to the stage of liberated souls and thus fall down deeply into the clutches of external energy. Some of them think that to hear about the pastimes of the Lord means to hear about his activities with the gopis or about his pastimes like lifting Govardhan Hill, and they have nothing to do with the Lord's plenary expansions as the Purusha avatars, and their pastimes of the creation, maintenance, or annihilation of material worlds. But if your pure devotee knows that there is no difference between the pastimes of the Lord, either in Rasa Leela or in creation, maintenance, or destruction of the material world. Rather, the descriptions of such activities of the Lord as the Purusha avatars are specifically meant for persons who are in the clutches of the external energy. Topics like the Rasa Lila are meant for the liberated souls and not for the conditioned souls. The conditioned souls, therefore, must hear with appreciation and devotion the Lord's pastimes in relationship with the external energy. And such acts are as good as the hearing of Rasa Lila in the liberated stage. A conditioned soul should not imitate the activities of liberated souls. Lord Sri Chaitanya never indulged in hearing the Rasa Lila with ordinary men. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, the science of God, the first 9 cantos prepare the ground for hearing the 10th canto. This will be further explained in the last chapter of this canto. In the 3rd canto, it will be more explicit. A pure devotee of the Lord, therefore, must begin reading or hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from the very beginning and not from the 10th canto. We have several times been requested by some so-called devotees to take up the 10th canto immediately, but we have refrained from such an action because we wish to present Srimad Bhagavatam as the science of Godhead and not as a sensuous understanding for the conditioned souls. This is forbidden by such authorities as Sri Ramaji. By reading and hearing Srimad Bhagavatam as a scientific presentation, the conditioned souls will gradually be promoted to the higher status of transcendental knowledge after being freed from the illusory energy based on sense enjoyment. Thus then the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 2nd canto, 7th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam entitled Scheduled Incarnations with Specific Functions. Well, this is the science of God, the science of love of God as well. So it's complete. So in every field of knowledge, there's a threefold learning process. That would be the teacher, like in college as a professor. Then there's a textbook, and then there's fellow students who, if they're generous at heart, can help us learn the lessons. It's the same way in martial arts. You have your sensei, you have your book of forms, and then you have the fellow practitioners who, if they're generous at heart, can help you learn the forms. In the same way in spiritual life, we have our spiritual master, and we have the Shastra, and then we also have our fellow, the Vaishnavas, the devotees. And by nature, they're generous at heart, so they can help us learn as well. We learn from one another. So, therefore, we should expect that in the ultimate science, that there's a step-by-step process, And it might be tempting, but we should fight that urge to, sure, we all want to be there with Krishna in the spiritual world and everything. But we must be very careful because, I personally know myself, my false ego will say, it's just like the mind, it's always tempted to, saying crazy things. And so, for instance, a cheating guru, and most gurus technically are cheating gurus, misleading, in Kali Yuga that is, in Kali Yuga. So they'll offer you what you want to hear. And what do we want to hear? Well, we want to hear praises. We want to hear right off the bat, as soon as we join whatever religious or spiritual process, that we're special. That attracts us. It does attract us. But as a spirit soul, we should always be very careful to know that, is he just saying that because he wants me to join his process and become, his disciple, like that, Which, that's Kali Yuga. It's the age of the cheaters and the cheated. So we're attracted to that sort of thing. And if someone can promise you, I can reveal to you your most intimate, who you really are in relationship to Krishna, things like that. 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 we have to proceed from the starting point with Bhagavad Gita and just learn the ABCs of spiritual life. Gradually approach the Bhagavatam and analyze it and digest it and be very, very humble receiving this knowledge. But if I listen to my false ego, oh yeah, I'm liking what you're saying. That sounds really nice. Wow, you sure are a nice person. Saying that about me. And we want to hear nice things, there's no doubt about it, but everyone's already glorious anyway. We're all, even Jesus Christ said, you are all sons of God. Greater works than these shall you do also. I have much yet to tell you, but your ears cannot bear to hear it. Even the ant is glorious. All these spirit souls. So we'll never go wrong by being humble. But the Vaishnava is humble, but the Vaishnava is bold also, because we're armed with knowledge. We're backed by the Parampara. No man is an island. We don't stand alone. We have, just like that old the movie called Magnificent Seven. It wasn't the Magnificent One. It was a team, Magnificent Seven. So, Magnificent One, that'd be a pretty boring movie. What's one cowboy going to do against an army, I don't think, unless he's Krishna, the original cowboy. Okay, so what we're going to do is go back to the beginning. What a beautiful place to start. Speaking of going step by step through the Bhagavatam, we're going back to the preface, and we're going to read a little bit about, we have to go through 9 cantos to approach the 10th canto, very humbly digesting and trying to learn and become purified as we slowly approach the 10th canto with awe and reverence. We want to be careful. We want to be careful because, it's not like we can trust ourselves. We can trust our Guru, we can trust Krishna, we can trust the translations, Prabhupada's translated. We can't exactly trust our false ego. We want to trust, our real ego. We want to trust our real spiritual feelings, but we never want to assume that we're advanced. Prabhupada said that if you think that you're advanced, then that's cause for fall down. We should consider everybody else much more advanced than us, and that we can try to learn from them, the Vaishnavas. This is the preface to Srimad Bhagavatam. Prabhupada says, we must know the present need of human society. And what is that need? Human society is no longer bounded by geographical limits to particular countries or communities. Human society is broader than in the Middle Ages, and the world tendency is toward one state or one human society. The ideals of spiritual communism, according to Srimad Bhagavatam, are based more or less on the oneness of the entire human society, nay, of the entire energy of living beings. The need is felt by great thinkers to make this a successful ideology. Srimad Bhagavatam will fill this need in human society. It begins, therefore, with an aphorism of Vedanta philosophy, Jamadya Shahataha, to establish the ideal of a common cause. Human society at the present moment is not in the darkness of oblivion. It has made rapid progress in the fields of material comforts, education, and economic development throughout the entire world. But there is a pinprick somewhere in the social body at large, and therefore there are large-scale quarrels, even over less important issues. There is need of a clue as to how humanity can become one in peace, friendship, and prosperity with a common cause. Srimad Bhagavatam will fill this need, for it is a cultural presentation for the re-spiritualization of the entire human society. Srimad Bhagavatam will fill this need, for it is a cultural presentation for the re-spiritualization of the entire human society. Srimad Bhagavatam should be introduced also in the schools and colleges For it is recommended by the great student devotee Prahlad Maharaj in order to change the demoniac face of society. Kumara Acharit Prajno Dharmam Bhagavatam Iha Yolabam Manasam Janma Tad Apyadru Bam Artadam. Bhagavatam 761. Disparity in human society is due to a lack of principles in a godless civilization. There is God, or the Almighty One, from whom everything emanates, by whom everything is maintained, and in whom everything is merged to rest. Material science has tried to find the ultimate source of creation very insufficiently, but it is a fact that there is one ultimate source of everything that be. This ultimate source is explained rationally and authoritatively in the beautiful Bhagavatam, or Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is the transcendental science, not only for knowing the ultimate source of everything, but also for knowing our relation with Him and our duty toward perfection of the human society on the basis of this perfect knowledge. It is a powerful reading matter in the Sanskrit language and is now rendered into English elaborately so that simply by a careful reading one will know God perfectly well, so much so that the reader will be sufficiently educated to defend himself from the onslaught of atheists. Over and above this, the reader will be able to convert others to accepting God as a concrete principle. Srimad Bhagavatam begins with the definition of the ultimate source. It is a bona fide commentary on the Vedanta Sutra by the same author, Srila Vyasadeva, and gradually it develops into 9 cantos up to the highest state of God realization. The only qualification one needs to study this great book of transcendental knowledge is to proceed step by step, cautiously, and not jump forward haphazardly as with an ordinary book. It should be gone through chapter by chapter, one after another. The reading matter is so arranged with the original Sanskrit text, its English transliteration, synonyms, translation, and purports, so that one is sure to become God-realized soul at the end of finishing the first 9 cantos. The 10th canto is distinct from the first 9 cantos because it deals, we'll read that again, because that's what the verse today is about. The reading matter is so arranged with the original Sanskrit text so that one is sure to become God-realized soul at the end of finishing the first 9 cantos. The 10th canto is distinct from the first 9 cantos because it deals directly with the transcendental activities of the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. One will be unable to capture the effects of the 10th canto without going through the first 9 cantos. The book is complete in 12 cantos, each independent, but it is good for all to read them in some installments, one after another. In small installments, one after another. That's what I've always kind of believed, you know. I mean, I realize I'm not the most intelligent person in the world, but I've always kind of, it's like a massive meal, and I take a little bit and eat it and try to digest it, and then I try to move on to the next thing. You know, I mean, I know it's really a slow process, but that's just how I do, you know. But anyway, so that's pretty much how I see it, how I've always kind of done it. I must admit, Prabhupada says, I must admit my frailties in presenting Srimad Bhagavatam, but still I am hopeful of its good reception by the thinkers and leaders of society on the strength of the following statement of Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.11. Tadva visargo janatagha viplavo yasmin prati shokam abadha vatyapi namam yanantasya yasha nikitani yash shrinvanti grinanti sadavaha. On the other hand, that literature, which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, form, and pastimes of the unlimited Supreme Lord is a transcendental creation meant for bringing about a revolution in the impious life of a misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literature, even though irregularly composed, is heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. Om Tat Sat, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. I always wondered what it meant by irregularly composed. I've just never heard Prabhupada mention anything about that. Curious. But anyway, I just want to say one thing. Like, for instance, I don't like to always pick on Fayette, but he's been there like 4 years now. I remember when he first came here, he tried speed reading Bhagavad Gita. I caught him, he was speed reading. He used to be in college, and he picked up on it, and he just can't change it. And I kept trying to break him. I was trying to speed read Bhagavad Gita. And then, of course, like many people, just read the translation and not the purport. How are you going to learn when you don't actually digest it as you're going along, That means you're taking it for granted. And we have to be respectful of Krishna in the process. Did you raise your hand, Prabhu? I'm sorry?
When you said irregularly composed, I thought you were going to say something.
Oh,
I'm sorry, mind you, let's see.
that's all right. I was just going to say, I thought it meant like it's not in chronological.
Yeah. That's what I always thought too. I didn't think that much of it, since I was just reading about it. Yeah.
So I also thought sometimes that, there was, in the beginning, there was the point that his English was sort of, it wasn't good. I've heard it doesn't matter if it's grammatically correct or it does, even if the person who's speaking about the Bhagavatam may not be so literate, that even if you're speaking about it and you're speaking from the heart, you may not sound like the most erudite person. And when Prabhupada's first translations, that was really beautiful. When they brought from India, I used to have a copy of one. Yeah. And sometimes the translations were like sort of, because he was raised by the Queen's English, and it was a little different. I loved it that way. But,
Yeah.
So, but I think what Mother Dharma Campbell just said, I had never thought of that it's not so chronological. Sometimes it's hard to trace out the thread.
Well, talking about starting from the beginning of Bhagavatam and then going step by step and eventually approaching the 10th canto with great respect, and by then hopefully have a great appreciation for Krishna's pastimes, and realize that these are not, I haven't really seen, devotees, I'm not going to talk about it, but I haven't really seen devotees, fall down in that process where they take Krishna cheaply, what I mean? I haven't really seen much of it. I've only seen maybe one example in my life. I'm not going to dwell on it or anything, but it's when one falls down into that sahaja thing, it can consume and just take over and really make you feel that. Well, I've talked to a person like that, and they really it's lonely at the top. You can become like me. Yeah. Oh yeah. All these things that were just so completely convinced, and this person never ever changed back from that understanding. I was in front of Radhi Shyam and Vrindavan, and they, I didn't say this, but this person said they gave it to me. He said lots of things like that, and I really believed it too. And it was just like, oh my God. But anyway, I don't want to criticize or anything like that. But the point I'm trying to make is, if we fall down into that sahaja type thing, it can really grab us because the false ego is so powerful. And if one starts to believe, well, yeah, I am truly advanced, Prabhupada says that's caused to fall down. Like one sannyasi asked Prabhupada, he's newly sannyasi, and Prabhupada, what do I do now? And he just said that just do what needs to be done. Follow like I do. Just do what needs to be done, And Prabhu says, like I say, you don't have to be the most intelligent person in the room. There's always somebody more intelligent. We don't have to be the most intelligent person in the room. This will get out of a lot of situations at colleges and things like this. If you're a preaching engagement, you can quote Prabhu and say, he said that you don't have to be the most intelligent person in the room. There'll always be someone more intelligent. What's important is that we don't have to prove our intelligence, but what's important is that we try to give them Krishna. And that tells the audience, well, he's not trying to be the most intelligent person in the room. He's not trying to do that. I mean, that kind of, because, like when you say certain things, I think it's the antenna that goes up. They start hearing things. Somebody used to give that example. The antenna goes up when you start tuning in on certain things that they want to be envious about and jump on you. Maybe there's a special sense for that. I don't know. Anybody else want to make a comment about the subject today? Part of it is that going through the first 9 cantos, approaching the 10th canto.
Well, I found it interesting that, Prabhupada, or Brahma is also speaking, but Prabhupada always spoke very strongly about scientists, and not in a very, he wasn't very fond. He thought they were nonsense. They were atheists. But here we're talking about a science. I'm not real sure exactly what the dictionary definition of science is, but a science here is that there's something being taught to us. There's steps, there's hearing, there's chanting, in association. Lord Chaitanya said 5 most important parts of this process is living in association with devotee in a holy place, worshipping the deity, chanting Hare Krishna, and studying Srimad Bhagavatam. Instead, recommended we study step by step. So it's a science. You go in, you perform, mix this chemical, that chemical, then you get this result. I remember devotees used to say, when they were preaching, said, just come and make an experiment. Stay 1 week. Live with us for 1 week. Chant these rounds. Eat this diet. There's the diet, there's the time you wake up, the songs you sing, the prayers you make, and like that. And see if you don't feel something after 1 week.
I'm mixing, I think it's sodium bicarbonate and citric acid, and then you get effervescence.
Right.
It's a science,
So but the scientists, they are trying to prove here's the science that's trying to prove that there is a source, a personal source, and we are connected with him, and this is a science to reconnect.
The scientists see the chemicals, but they don't see the person mixing the chemicals to get the
They're trying to
effervescence.
prove that he doesn't exist, that everything is coming from nothing.
Yeah.
So that is the difference. I just thought that was kind of interesting.
Did you want to say something, Anji?
Can you define what a sahaja is?
Sahaja?
Oh, was it sahaja?
Yeah.
Yeah, just taking the process cheaply, you know what I mean?
That's what sahaja means, taking the
Well,
process.
like for instance, there was a person who came here and he was an outsider, but we tried to help him learn the process, We used to have woofers that came here, and he said several things. But here's what happens. When they're exposed to Krishna consciousness, it's just like when you're making ghee, you got butter, and then you turn up the heat, and the impurities rise to the surface. And this process, through the expert guidance of the spiritual master is able to skim off those impurities, slowly, gently, and then you're left with really nice ghee, you know what I mean? So, in this process of heating up, turning up the flame, if a person really gets in it and they start coming and they start chanting or reading the Lila, being around devotees, things can happen. They can become more envious, you know what I mean? Because even they probably don't realize, we don't even all know our own impurities. But all of a sudden it bubbles up and all of a sudden you're suddenly angry. Because the devotee said something and just triggered something. And even you didn't know that envy was in you, you know what I mean? Like anger, Prabhu says anger can contaminate your consciousness and just like that. just immediately contaminate the whole consciousness, anger. So you were asking me, what is sahaja? Is that what you said?
What's the definition? What is, like, when
Taking the
someone
process
takes
cheaply, as far as I
people-
know. So,
I mean, there's different examples,
Yeah.
but like in the very beginning, sometimes, there's one example, I think it was in San Francisco, people will come in and they start displaying ecstatic symptoms like that of Lord Chaitanya in the Anchalila, where rolling on the ground and weeping, and when you're chanting, and so once this person was coming regularly to the San Francisco temple, he was rolling on the ground. The devotees didn't know what to do. Maybe he's advanced, maybe he isn't. So Prabhupada said, one way to tell is, put on one boot, and you kick this person with a boot. If they don't feel it, immediately pay your obeisances to them. If they do feel it, drag him out.
wow, I never heard that one, Prabhuji. Did you hear about the bucket of water? Throw a bucket of water on him?
No.
Yeah, that's the one I heard about. Yeah.
I've seen it before. There's like, there's always like faction groups. There's some Indians that do it too. Like they just like in the middle of kirtan just start rolling on the ground, and then just get up and then back to normal. It's just it's a show,
Yeah.
It's just a show.
Oh, yes, Manji?
Long time ago, like late 80s maybe in Chicago, there was this woman who hung out at the temple a lot. She'd come to all the Sunday feasts and everything. And she was a total sahaja, and I knew it. I could just see right through her, So one time there was the Sunday program, and I was standing more back here. The room was pretty full. She was always right up in front, and she would dance in front of the deities. Like, as soon as kirtan would start, boom, she'd be in ecstasy dancing in front of the deities, So one time it was like a pretty full house for the Sunday feast, and she's dancing like that in front of the deities. Then all of a sudden, she falls on the floor like she fainted, in ecstasy. And I knew it was a total hoax.
Yeah.
And everybody was like, oh no, is there a doctor in the house? Is there a doctor in the house? And I said, kick her.
Yeah. And did she get up immediately then? Did she immediately get up when you said that? She did get up immediately when you said that?
I think somebody went over to her.
Oh, okay.
Something, but I was like, don't even fall for that,
Well, I can tell you, I had a little sahaja moment when I first joined, because this is all reminding me of this. About a week after I joined, because I used to meditate and all that. My whole family did, we're vegetarians and all that. Trying to be total pure vegetarian. So, I thought, well, I got some spirituality coming into the movement, right? But then about, say, maybe 5 days or a week, I was sitting there trying to chant, right? Like yoga position, whatever, and then I start shaking every now and then a little bit. No, I need to shake a little bit. No, you feel like spiritual. This is it, yeah. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? I was sincere. I wasn't trying to be egotistical. You know what I mean?
Well,
bring it on.
Maybe you were getting an introductory offer.
But Prabhuji, the devotees are so merciful, though, that you can't get away with it. I mean, being around the devotees, it's like, the devotee was very nice to me. He said, no, Prabhu, it's not like that. Just hear the Maha Mantra.
So,
yeah, that's all he had to say. I knew exactly what he meant. It's not like you're trying to push it. Just hear the Maha Mantra. Every syllable. And so that nipped it in the bud right there.
these things have popped up, and they are popping up even now more since Prabhupada has left. And it was there while Prabhupada was here, and right after he left, I saw this one person who was supposed to be a guru in our movement, and this was in Vrindavan, in front of the Krishna Balaram. And there's where the courtyard there, and he's sitting up there. And I had heard, had been a program in 1977 where it was called Krishna Samela, where they had all these groups come in and chant, and there was some people that were chanting, and as they were chanting, they go, and Prabhupada said, this is Sahaja, right there. So I saw this one guru in our movement, and he's like, I'm looking around the room, and I'm in Vrindavan, so I can't criticize. I didn't know what to do, because half the devotees were like this, sleeping.
Yeah.
The other half were like, because he was their guru. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I gotta get out of here. I ran down to Kogal Ashram, I got my wife and son, I said, pack your bags, I'll tell you later.
Oh, because you were still in Vrindavan.
I was in Vrindavan, yeah. And shortly after that, it came out. He was taking LSD.
Oh my God. Well, you know, up there at the farm, Prabhuji, I was behind the curtain, you know, and we can make a skit out of this, Prabhuji. What happened was there was a senior devotee and a younger devotee, and they were both sitting down. And everybody knows when you're sitting down, you're chanting, you can fall asleep so easy. Especially if you put something on your head, you know, keeps you warm, it can put you right out. We used to know this all the time around Damodar, so people knew if you walk around while you're chanting, well, you can't fall asleep while you're standing up. I mean, walking around. Walking around though. But walking around, you know, that's what I like the best, is walking. But anyway, so what I saw was, I was behind the curtain, so I could not fall asleep. I was taking care of Nitya Gaura Chanda, right? And it's just so hilarious because, you know, the Solar devotee used to fall asleep constantly. And I timed it. Sometimes it might be 20 seconds in between nodding off, you know. So he really was falling asleep. So this younger devotee one day was in there with him. And then, and he said, Prabhu, you're falling asleep. And he said, I'm not falling asleep. And then eventually he said, you're falling asleep. And then a little while later he said, stop falling asleep. You know, and this is a younger devotee talking to an older devotee too, you know. And the older devotee's getting cranky, saying, I'm not falling asleep. What are you talking about? You're falling asleep. He went back and forth like that. I'm behind the curtain as if I wasn't even there. And I'm witnessing that who was falling asleep. I'd peek out every now and then and see it. It's the most hilarious thing. If you could get the timing down, the comedy on that would be absolutely hilarious.
That was actually...
People don't realize how much they're falling asleep.
But that was, I mean, that's still off the track. I mean, that is kind of... But I remember a point where the first was just we had like a water bottle and we would spray each other nicely.
Wow.
It got to the point where we all had our own little, what do you call them, water guns? And we would just...
Well, that's better than the Buddhists coming and whacking you with that stick, like cane, you know, whacking you.
That's not exactly sahajas, that's just kind of another... But, you know, sahaja means you start to think you're more advanced than you really are. Maybe I became Krishna by chanting, or maybe I'm a gopi, or maybe I'm a coward boy, and you want to jump ahead.
Right.
That's what Prabhupada's saying, take it step by step, and then Krishna will reveal himself to you. He'll send someone from the spirit, you'll be trained by someone.
I trust myself, say when we were all in the spiritual world, you know, we did something wrong. So maybe we shouldn't always trust ourselves. Maybe we should trust the spiritual master. Let's get out of here, you know. Like in that old movie, what was that, Road Warrior? Mel Gibson said, you want out of here? Talk to me. Yeah. That's an old movie. Okay, I'll voice some of the devotees. Shishi Gorin Chai, Shishi Bhada Radha Kanta, Goshu Prabhupada Ki Jai. Voice of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai.
If you look on YouTube, just put